Some people think, that you're going to find in another new labyrinth that's going to be created that will be more effective than the Chartres labyrinth. And this is maybe the early days, but I think it's an important point that, and my response to that is, you don't understand what archetypal pattern means. That maybe there will be effective labyrinths, that's fine, but the Chartres labyrinth really has those roots of pre-Cartesian world, and that's the world we need to begin to understand more and more as patriarchy dissolves. A misunderstanding that continues is the power of archetypal labyrinths, and maybe a contemporary labyrinth can, be equally as powerful, but that they're not opposed and one's not better than the other. And I think it's dangerous to look for a better labyrinth rather than a labyrinth that brings yet another experience toward opening the ability to look within and self-reflect and find the alignment within ourselves and the world to co-create, to bring new form into being. And the contemporary patterns, I think they're great, but even Herman Kern in his book says, the archetypal pattern brings this in, and the artist who is free to explore their own probings, creative probings, sometimes fly in the face of the archetypal labyrinths. I'm not quoting it very well. I can get you that quote, but yeah, and see, we want to not confuse our public. This is a related issue. We don't want to confuse our public by having a contemporary labyrinth and someone says this is the labyrinth, meaning the classical or the Chartres. It's not. It's a contemporary labyrinth that was made, da-da-da-da, and there's always history. Like the good example is the Reconciliation Labyrinth with Claire Wilson. That's a very viable, lovely labyrinth. It also fits very well into, Cape Town and South African tradition more than it does here. I would call that a specialty labyrinth here. And the workshops I do, have the Chartres labyrinth, and then you walk the Reconciliation labyrinth. And I usually have people role play, usually people who are not reconciled, and do a role play, and then bring that experience back into the Chartres labyrinth.
In a way to what? To sort of get that much deeper, or like you said, put the lid on the genie jar?
Yeah, well, no, to integrate the experience. So I might say to people, So a workshop, we had one time 18 people. We paired people up around issues, and somebody had a real conflict with a sister, and another person had a conflict with a sister. So we put them in a role play situation. Like the one person described, the sister's always scowling at me, she's always criticizing me, and then as they walk the Reconciliation Labyrinth, this person's scowling at the person, and to bring forward the feelings of how do I reconcile this and what is going on here. And then they reversed roles, and the other person did the other sister who was always, and had that experience, and then they shared verbally, and then brought it back to the Chartres labyrinth, and it integrated it deeper. It brought it into another way, of the psyche being able to kind of absorb the experience.